Welcome to the final video in this Laravel in a Nutshell series. As noted at the beginning, the goal with this series was to give you a broad overview of working with Laravel, really just to get a taste of it and start to wrap your mind around the Laravel way of doing things. Along the way, we touch on the key topics necessary to building Laravel applications. I've got a list of those topics here if you want to revisit any of them. But it really boils down to form processing and database interaction. Those are the keystones of every web application. And we saw a very basic example of that with our little e-commerce store. We have the ability to interact with our database, pull data out of it. We could also create new data. We saw how to process a form to do that. Like I said, essential ingredients for any web application. But of course, this is a broad overview. We really just skim the surface. And so to conclude the series, I want to talk about where you might go from here. And I have a few different suggestions. Suggestion number one is just spending more time in the Laravel documentation. Specifically, if you're looking at the documentation under the left under section called the basics, this is where I would definitely recommend just giving everything a read through. Now, the idea here is not to master or understand everything you're reading as you're going along, but just really preloading your brain with the tools that Laravel provides so that when you sit down and start coding, and you start to set about a certain task, you can think to yourself, oh, I remember reading about a feature within Laravel that could help with this. Now, there's a lot more beyond the basics. There's digging deeper. There's sections on security, database, as well as some additional packages and features that Laravel provides. Try not to let that overwhelm you. Remember, you only have to bite off a little bit at a time. And like I said, I think the basics is a good place to start with that. Other things you could do if you want a more comprehensive series on Laravel, I recommend Laravel from Scratch. This is put out by the makers of Laracast, which is a great platform for learning about Laravel and other related technologies. So that's a good place to do a deeper dive. And then finally, my recommendation for anybody learning a new technology is just to roll up your sleeves, get to work, start to build something. And I've got a list here of some sample applications that might be a good place to start. Or if you've had an idea in the back of your head of an application you've always wanted to build, this could be a good opportunity to do that. My suggestion with any real world idea, though, is always keep it really simple to begin with. Focus on creating like a prototype, a minimum viable product. Otherwise, if you're trying to build a very complex application while also learning a new technology, that can be a little frustrating. So start simple. You can always build and expand on it from there. But regardless of which path you take, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to comment on any of the videos in this series.